I have 2 words for people who think they do not like the short form. Jim Shepard. Jim Shepard is the author of 4 short story collections as well as 6 novels. His previous collection, Like You'd Understand Anyway, won the 2008 Story Prize and was nominated for a National Book Award. His stories are published regularly in such publications as The New Yorker, The Atlantic, McSweeney's, and Tin House. His newest collection, You Think That's Bad, which he's going to read from tonight, I think, offers us an even more wildly diverse collection of astonishingly observant stories. Like an expert curator, he populates the vastness of human experience, from its bizarre fringes and lonely, breathtaking pinnacles to the hopelessly mediocre and desperately below average, with brilliant scientists, reluctant soldiers, workaholic artists, female explorers, depraved murderers, and deluded losers, all wholly convincing and utterly fascinating. One reviewer described Shepard as a writer who thinks big and writes short, whose short stories do the work of entire novels in capturing different places and times. And the author Richard Ford says that his instinct around a sentence is virtuosic and masterful. In an article about writing, Jim Shepard wrote this: "We need to do everything we can when writing to stay in touch with pleasure, with fun, with a passionate engagement that we all manage as children, not only because that will keep us going, but also because it will generate the freedom and the energy that allow us to exhilarate ourselves and so exhilarate others." Jim lives in Williamstown, Massachusetts with his family, where he teaches at Williams College. We're so happy to have him here tonight. Please join me in welcoming him.
Read for 15 or 20 minutes or so and then do Q&A.
20.
That's my mom. Anastasia goes, no, go on, please. That'll take us just far enough into the story so that I'll just stop and everybody will be like, sort of maximize your displeasure kind of thing. I'm going to read the beginning of a story called Boys Town. And then again, just stop. I'm also, to make things even harder to follow, I'll be skipping some sections. Boys Town. Here's a story of my life. Whatever I did wasn't good enough. Anything I figured out too late. Whenever I tried to help, I made things worse. That's what it's been like for me as far back as I can remember. Whenever I was about to get somewhere, something would step in and block me. Whenever I was about to finally have something would happen to take it away. The story of your life is you're not to blame for anything, my mother always said when I told her that. Out of everybody on earth, you're the only one who never did anything wrong. Whatever happens, it's always somebody else's fault. It is always somebody else's fault, I told her. Poor you, she always said back, screwed by the world. Hey, Dr. Jägermeister's calling, I used to tell her. Bottoms up. And she'd just go back to whatever she was watching. So what's the deal with dinner, sometimes I'd say. You have a busy day? Go to Pizza Hut, she'd tell me. That's Hut, you fucking idiot, I'd tell her back. And then she'd say something else wrong the next time, just to frost my ass. I was 39 years old and living with my mother. I hadn't had a good year. What was your last good year, my friend Owen asked me, 1992? He wasn't doing too well himself, but he managed to come over once or twice a week to eat whatever we had lying around. I made some comment about whatever it was we were watching, and he said, "What do you like? Do you like anything?" He likes to complain, my mother told him. He likes to make trouble. I like to complain. I almost choked. What did I like? I liked my dog. I liked hunting in the woods. I liked target shooting. I liked my kid when I was first getting to know him. I liked women who weren't all about money or what I planned to do with my future. It'd be different if you ever got laid, Ellen said during a commercial. My mother snorted. Hey, you're the one with the hand in your pants, I said. Now he's going to tell us about Stacy, my mother told him. But I didn't say a word. My kid was down there in Stacy's house 1,000 miles away. I was supposed to send checks, but otherwise not come around more than once or twice a year. I mean, try to cram a whole year's worth of family time into 1 week. Maybe it'd work for you, but it didn't for me. Stacy said the kid was asking where his dad was, and that if I wanted to see him, I had to send money. It got so I let my mother answer when she called. They'd stay on the phone telling each other stories about me. You think that's bad, my mother would say. Guy in basic told me that girls who weren't good-looking were the smart move because they were more grateful and weren't as likely to run off with somebody. And that made sense to me. I met Stacy at Fort Sill and liked her family better than her. I was a 71 Gulf, which is like a clerk, administrative, hospital stuff. She was too. I'd be dropping off discharge batches, and she kept her head down when I teased her, but I could see her smile. We went out for a year and 5 months, and then we got married and had a kid. She was always saying she was going to move out, but she finally did the deed when I pushed her down the stairs. She was all like, "You could have killed me," and I was like, "Hey, you shoved me first." And there was a railing, and there was carpet. She said, "You don't shove somebody at the top of the stairs." And I said, "Well, what did you do to me?" And the cop who showed up was a guy who had a crush on her in high school, and he was all, "You can't be with this person. You want to press charges?" He's standing over her while she's crying at the kitchen table, and I'm in the den thinking, why don't you rub her fucking back? And she's all misgenerous. "No, just get him out of here. I don't feel safe." Out here in the fucking sticks, you don't meet anybody. I went to this single social in the basement rec room of the church. They had to fill out forms so they could match people up. These two women were running the thing. They asked if I could read and write. When they saw my face, they said it was just a question on the form. But then I always reminded myself I didn't have it so bad. Our next-door neighbor's 19-year-old had some kind of thing, muscular dystrophy maybe, and they told her kids like him only live to be about 21. When she came over for coffee with my mother, she told us to pray his heart muscle stop before his lungs, because that'd be a less horrible way to go. I had all kinds of jobs. If it was something no one else wanted to do, I did it. I worked in a hospital laundry. I washed pots and pans. I separated metals in a scrapyard. I drove a shuttle. That job had a little pin that came with it that said Martin for Comfort Inn. Whenever I said stuff to my mother like I could see why my dad walked out, she'd go, "Where's your pin? Don't lose your pin." I started thinking I should just go off the grid. You know, if I wasn't using anything or spending anything, I didn't need to make anything. I'd grow my own garden and shit. In the winter, there'd still be rabbits and deer. I'd work out, read a book, improve my mind, unlike the other fucking imbeciles around here. "Who says you're not using anything or spending anything?" my mother said when I told her. "Somebody's cleaning out the refrigerator every 2 days." "That'd be your friend Owen," I said, "your TV pal." "My friend Owen," she said. "He doesn't come over to see me." "Well, I never asked him to come see me," I told her. "So why's he come?" my mother said. "'Cause he's a fucking bum like me," I told her. "'Cause he's got nothing else to do with himself." All right, she said. "Don't get excited." "Don't get excited," I said. "Don't get excited," she said. "Put that down." The Comfort Inn was my last job. Took 2 days off to go to my grandmother's funeral, and they never let me forget it. The week I was back, even when I did a good job on something, all I heard was, "You never told anybody you weren't coming in. You didn't let us know we were supposed to cover for you. You left us holding the bag." I'm working, and the supervisor's just standing there running me down instead of doing his job. I finally told him that kind of horseshit was all well and good, but, you know, it was pretty unprofessional. You get lonely is what it is. A person's not supposed to go through life with absolutely nobody. It's not normal. The longer you go by yourself, the weirder you get, and the weirder you get, the longer you go by yourself. It's a loop, and you got to do something to get out of it. A huge amount of research for that, maybe 4 or 5 months worth of research for that, and my novelist friends would often say, "You're nuts. You could get you get a big novel out of this." And I say, you know, well, I want to put less food on my children's table. But I also think that I don't want to spend 3 years with that. I can just bring myself to spend 4 or 5 or 6 months with it, but I don't want to spend 3 years there. You know, a lot of the men and women I'm writing about, I don't want to inhabit their heads for 3 or 4 years working away from them.
Is that a typical amount of time that you would spend with a story?
Well, the Boys Town story, the story I just read, would probably would be a lot less research, because there's not that much involved in researching that kind of thing. A story about 15th century France, yeah, I don't wake up in the morning going, "Oh God, what else could I know about 15th century?" There's that's a lot of stuff too. And of course it's an infinite it's an infinite possibility for procrastination, right, as a writer, because you're like, no, I can't write yet. And I've known a lot of writers like that. And I'm writing about the Soviet Union, so I can't start writing until I know all there is to know about the Soviet Union. Like, well, they're going to bury you before you start writing. So at some point you do have to register. It's not about becoming an expert. It's about mobilizing enough significant detail that you can start to create a persuasive illusion.
I'm wondering how you think you're different now than you were like in your 20s as a writer. Like if you look back at your writing or sort of your worldview, sort of as
I'm
an
a
author.
lot more ambitious than I was. No, I mean in terms of what I'm willing to try.
Really?
Not ambitious in terms of I want a prize, but much more in terms of the stuff I'm willing to try. I mean this stuff. Like if I had given myself some of these assignments at 20, I would have been very, very far in over my head.
Do you think you wouldn't have had the technical ability to do stuff at 20?
I wouldn't have had the empathetic reach. I wouldn't have technical ability. Yeah, I probably wouldn't have had the ability to sift through zillions of details and go, this one, not that, not those 800, you know, that kind of thing. I can do that with a lot more celerity than I used to be able to do it. But really, it's about the empathetic ability. I didn't have that empathetic ability. I mean, I had a version of it, but it was pretty limited back then. So I could do certain things, but I couldn't have done this sort of thing. And in fact, when I did Love and Hydrogen is kind of a new sort of a collected stories. I think they call it selected when they don't have all of them. And the editor invited me to go back and look at a lot of the early, because I published a lot of stories early on. I was very young, and I didn't keep almost any of them, except maybe one or two. I mean, going back to a story you wrote 25 years ago is a little bit like
An old boyfriend, a girlfriend? Or...
It's a little bit like watching video of your first date, you know, where you're sort of like, yeah, I wouldn't mind watching that, and then as soon as the video comes up, you're like, turn it off! You know? Oh! You know, I think you have a kind of a repressive memory of it. I was sort of adoring, no, turn that off. That kind of thing. So, looking back over those old stories, I wasn't impressed. In fact, one of the things I think is one of the most disingenuous comments I hear at Q&As is people go, do you have a favorite novel or story? And you often hear writers go, you know, it's like children. I don't really have a favorite. And I'm like, well, if it's like children, of course you have a favorite. Are you crazy? And I would never say, oh, read any one of my books. You know, people go, should I read your first book? I go, no, it's a good book, but no, you should read the later ones.